My fellow Steemians, you are in for a treat on this video. This is part of our Steemit Success Series, and I'm talking to a legend, a person who is very kind, very knowledgeable about Steemit and how to be successful. His name is Tim Cliff, and you will want to get your pen and paper ready to go, or note-taking device of choice, because Tim just packed this full of great ideas. I was loving it, listening to him and doing the interview and getting a chance to talk with him. So get ready to go as we hear the amazing, the wonderful, and the giving Tim Cliff. With Steemit, you want to make sure that what you're doing really helps other people, reaches out to them, and there's certain basic principles that can help you to be more successful. And the guest that we have today is someone who really knows how to do that. His name is Tim Cliff. He is legendary in Steemit. He's helped many people to achieve success and has a lot of wisdom. Tonight, we're going to tap into that. He's joining us now from his offices up there in the Minneapolis area. Tim, thank you very much for being with us.
Hi, Terry. Thanks for having me.
Well, you have done a lot with Steemit, and how long have you been with Steemit?
About a year and a half.
Year and a half, very good. I'm sure you've seen, even over that year and a half, some changes going on. I wanted to ask you about a few of the kind of things that you've seen really work best to be successful in Steemit, because this is our Steemit Success Series. We're talking to very good people, people who are very successful in what they're doing. So what would be some of the areas you think people should venture into and do to be successful in Steemit?
I'd say the first thing that I would recommend is to know your audience. And there's a couple things that I mean by that. I think everyone has their own unique skills to bring to the table. Myself, I come from a technical background, so I kind of have coding skills to offer, but if you ask me to come up with a funny meme, I would probably do a horrible job. Whereas there's a lot of people on the platform that are good at that stuff.
Yeah, I noticed they have names like XR35123 or something like that. And you're going, well, hello there, XR35123. You use Tim Cliff like I'm using Terry Brock. So I think you and I are just going with regular names.
Yep, I'm not as creative in that category. But like I was saying, I think everyone has kind of their own unique skills to bring to the table. And when you come to Steemit and you're posting your material or you're commenting on people's other people's posts, you're trying to add value to the platform in your own unique way. And so I don't want to get too into the specifics of one type of material, whether you're a blogger or an artist or a coder, but whatever your talent is, what you're trying to do is market that towards the community and find ways that you can add value to your audience. Now, everyone's going to have a different audience in mind, and it's entirely up to you who you'd like to go for. Just kind of picking some of the more well-known ones. There's definitely kind of a conspiracy theory audience on Steemit. There's an anti-government audience. There's a we love Steemit audience. There's a we hate Steemit audience. And so, you can definitely tailor your content to whoever it is that you're interested in marketing to. But one thing to keep in mind, and I don't want it to be taken the wrong way, but keep in mind who the token holders are and whether they're going to appreciate your content.
And by token holders, for those that are just getting started, who are those people? What do you mean by token holders?
So as you participate in the Steem blockchain, you get rewarded with cryptocurrency tokens. And so as you're on the platform for a longer period of time, assuming you're getting rewards, you'll start accumulating tokens. Something I'll talk about a little bit later, but users can also go and invest in tokens. They can go to a market and purchase them. And actually, when investors are purchasing those tokens, that's how the users who are cashing out get paid. They're actually selling their tokens to an investor. And generally, the investors are buying those tokens because they want to make money, and not to put it in an evil capitalistic way. It's more, they're trying to put their money in a project that they think is going to succeed, and it's their hope that the project and the platform does well so that their investment goes up in value and they can end up money than they bought in. And so the more tokens that a user has, the more their votes are worth. And the idea behind that, which was talked about in the white paper, is that the users who don't have a lot of tokens aren't necessarily going to be thinking of the best interest of the community or what's going to make the token go up. They're thinking, how can I make the most money?
Yeah,
Whereas someone who has 100,000 Steem tokens, they might not necessarily be as concerned about getting an extra $200 on their blog post, but they have a big interest in the price of Steem going from 90 cents to $9.
yeah, they've got a different perspective, a much more long-term perspective.
Exactly. And the token holders are and the users are all voting on the content. And the way the platform is designed, the token holders who have more tokens, their votes are worth more. And the reason that it was designed that way is because the idea is that in general, the people who have the most to lose by the token going down or the most to gain by the token going up are going to use their votes in a way that's most beneficial for the platform as a whole. And so as a regular user or somebody who's coming in and writing content or trying to comment, an important idea to keep in mind is what you're doing adding value to the platform or adding value to the currency? Because what you're wanting to do is you're wanting the investors of the platform, the ones who hold lots of tokens, to see what you're doing and think, yes, this person is working to increase the value of my investment. I appreciate what they're doing. I'd like to reward them and thus vote on whatever it is that they're doing.
That is very good, Tim. I'm going to interrupt you for a moment. For those of you that are watching, listen to what Tim's just said. Very important that you focus on what is going to help the community. Be able to write content that is really good. Just putting out something going, hi, I'm wonderful, like me and I'll like you, follow me, I'll follow you. Not the thing to do. What Tim is saying is real, real important. Thank you, Tim, for mentioning that.
Yep.
So you say you were looking at that. What else would you look at? Now, you had mentioned before we started the recording, you had some personal views on blockchain also that were very important.
Yeah, so, I was brainstorming to myself before we had the interview here, what are some interesting perspectives and things that I can talk about? And one of the things that I dug into fairly deeply when I was starting out was the origins of the Steem blockchain, how everything came to be, what took it from the concept in Dan and Ned's mind to the platform that we see today. What are all the changes that have been involved to get from where it was to where it is now? And there's a lot of interesting things to talk about there, tons of features that have been added in the past years. But one of the things I wanted to focus on was kind of the very early days. And I'll start out by saying that everything I'm sharing here is just kind of information that I've gathered. I don't have firsthand experience here, so it's just kind of my interpretation. And it's also a very controversial aspect of the blockchain, is kind of how the origins started out and how there's a small subset of users right now who have a lot of tokens because they were there at the beginning and they were kind of at the initial stage. But there's kind of an interesting perspective I want to give on that, which is that at the very beginning, from what I understand, the way that the Steem blockchain was released is they posted a public announcement basically saying the blockchain is going to start. Here's the code. Whoever's interested is welcome to participate as a miner or a witness or whatever they called it at the time. And they didn't really sell it. They didn't try to say, here's this awesome new platform. This is going to be revolutionary. They just put it out there with as little publicity as possible and just said, here it is. If you're interested, take a look. And what I find interesting about that is that there was a certain type of individual who would have succeeded in that type of environment. One of them is that they would take the time to learn. And the other is that they would see the value beneath the surface.
Yeah, very important. It's important to have that, being able to see that value between the underneath the surface that not everyone is going to see. That's really what is a mark of a good investor.
Exactly. And so the early adopters, like, I mean, we can consider ourselves early adopters too, because if you fast forward 5 years, I'm sure, compared to who we have now, the platform is going to be much, much huger. But even earlier than us, the, first 100 or first 1,000 people that got involved,
Yeah.
they're to a large extent the token holders that have the most influence in the platform. And there's tons of people in the community who have lots and lots of negative things to say about these people because, if they were in their shoes, they'd be doing it much differently. But what's interesting is that the people that are in that position are really the users that saw the potential in the project very early on. And they were the ones who committed their time and their energy and their resources to just get the baby project going. This is before there was a Steemit.com. There wasn't a website to interact with. It was pretty much all command line on computers, and there really weren't any guides or technical help. So these are people that took the time to learn about the project, figured out how everything worked. And then a lot of them are people that got involved and, did some really fascinating things in order to get the project up off the ground.
Yeah, they were putting the skin there in the game at the very beginning. They paid the price when there was no real opportunity. And so I think, yes, it makes sense that they would reap the largest rewards. Just out of
Exactly.
curiosity, when did you initially join Steemit?
July 2016 or
Yeah, last year.
2015?
Yeah,
Uh,
2016.
Let me think here. Yeah.
Yeah, in July, I joined in August of 2016. So you're a month older than I am. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I joined pretty much right when Steam was at its highest point. It was at about like $4.30, right around there. My brother actually follows cryptocurrency projects, and he heard about it kind of through the grapevine when it exploded and became a popular cryptocurrency. So he forwarded on the information to me, and I got involved kind of right at the time that it was just becoming very well known, and there's a lot of publicity about this new revolutionary blockchain. So it's kind of an exciting time to be joining the platform.
Yeah, that was a very exciting time. Well, we've seen a lot of development now. Also, as you've worked with it, you've seen certain practices that are good and some that you'd kind of want to avoid. What are some thoughts that you have on things to do and things not to do when you're working with Steemit?
So don't beg for votes. Don't beg for follows. I
Oh,
think those
please,
are kind of
please vote for me. Vote for me. I'll follow you. You follow me. You mean that's not a good idea, huh?
usually not. I mean, so I can give my perspective, and I think everyone is going to have their own views on who they want to interact with. But I've actually met quite a few very interesting people on here, and they interact with me in various ways. But I'm pretty much never going to follow somebody or upvote somebody just because they message me and I have no idea who they are. It's a social platform, and it may sound bad, but in general, I'm going to vote for the people that I like, the people that I consider friends. And it's not in a I'm only going to reward my friends way, but it's more I like to get to know the users. I like to see that they're actually doing stuff for the right reasons, that they're adding value in whatever way they can. And when I see stuff that interests me and I want to see more of it, I'll follow.
Yeah,
And
that makes sense.
when I see stuff that I like, I upvote it.
Mhm.
And I know it's a very frustrating experience for pretty much every single new user on the platform. Is you can pour your heart and soul into a post, and you click the post button and you're watching the rewards, and you don't get any rewards, and you feel like why did I waste my time on this? How come all these other users are making all this money? It's not fair. I definitely know the experience, and it's interesting. You started out by saying that I'm, a very well-known person on the platform, and I don't know how many people know this, but I definitely did not start out that way.
Oh, how
The
did you start out?
Just like everyone else. So the first, I'd say, about 4 months of being on the platform, I was constantly posting. I was
Mhm.
coming up with personal stories from my life, enhancement suggestions for the website, uh, lots of different stuff. And I was not making any money at it. I mean, usually if I got like a $2 or $3 post, that was a huge victory. And the majority of the time, everything would be, 0, 3 cents. And I called it my post graveyard. It's just where all my good content went to die.
The post
And
graveyard. That's a good one. I think I've seen some of mine go in that same post graveyard.
yep.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. I mean, you spend hours putting together a post and you write something that you think the community is going to value. And, if you were voting on it, you would probably value it, but it doesn't get noticed, or the people who do notice it don't think it's as valuable as you do. And so all that time went to waste. And it got to the point that my friends and even my spouse was making fun of me for still spending time on that stupid website.
I like the way the air quotes come into that stupid website. I know exactly what you're saying. And by the way, those of you that are watching this, listen to what this genius is saying. A person who's paid the price and has done the same thing, where he puts out the post. And I can relate to this, Tim. I've done the same thing. I put it out. You put in a lot of time. I mean, this much or this much. Notice my hands are off the screen now. This much time. That's a lot. And then you get maybe a nickel or $1 or $2. So how do you keep going when something like that happens, Tim?
I I kind of go back to that origin story of the people who took the time to learn how it worked and saw the value beneath the surface were ultimately the ones who succeeded. And I kind of took that to heart and felt that if I took the time to learn the platform and if I continued to add value over time, that eventually it would pay off. And that's kind of where, my friends got to the point where they were making fun of me. And I can't say how many times I had to explain how, yes, I understand I could make more per hour working at McDonald's, but I knew that the potential was there. I'd seen other users join around the same time as me eventually start to gain followers and start to do well. And I didn't think that there was anything preventing me from becoming one of those users other than time and effort. And so basically, I just kept going and kept posting. And, every night or every weekend, whenever I had free time, it was okay, well, what's the next thing that I'm going to post about?
Very good. How many times a week were you posting then at that stage?
I was probably doing at least 5 a week, probably closer to 7. I mean, it was almost daily, other than, and I had a longer post and, I'd start writing it one night and then it would spill into the next night. But
Okay, those of you that are getting started with Steemit, listen to what Tim just said. 5 to 7 a week. Staying in there, but just pushing it through, slugging it out. It's called paying the price and being determined to make it happen. So, Tim, that sounds very good. And what happened then after that?
so eventually I'd say the quality of my content went up is a large part of it. I'd probably, if I dug back to the very beginning of my blog post, I'd probably even be embarrassed at some of the stuff that I wrote these days. But at the time, it was very good quality for me. But over time, when I'd get a $3 upvote from somebody, or I'd get at least a thought engaging comment from somebody who might not have necessarily had a lot of steam power, but they appreciated what I had to write, I kind of learned what the community and what my audience was interested in and what my community and audience wasn't as interested in. And so I kind of adapted my writing to try to do more of what they liked and less of what they didn't like.
Tim,
And
I am underlining and red flagging what you said. Real important. We're making big, bold fonts. Those of you that are watching this, look at what he just said. And if you didn't catch that, rewind real quickly and listen to this. Because what he's saying, he's listening to them. He's being responsive. He's getting his content better all along. Right, Tim, what you're telling us right now, this is really, really good. Nitty-gritty, how to make it work. And those of you watching this, if you've ever had the thought of, gee, I'm not getting anything, I'm about ready to quit, listen to what Tim has to say. And Tim, so from that point on, what happened?
so I think the next part is where the little bit of luck that everyone needs to get started finally came in. And it's definitely not luck in the sense of just winning a lottery, but it's even after putting in a lot of hard work and creating good posts, you do still need to get discovered. And I think what had happened is I had written enough posts and I had commented on enough people's articles where they at least knew who I was. Some of the comments that I had written had, shown that it's a thought-provoking and engaging comment. They didn't necessarily follow me, but they probably started to recognize my name. And what I started to do was to create a project that I thought was going to add a lot of value to the community. And what it is, or what it got called, was the Steemit wish list. And so at the time that I had started, there was tons of people, myself included, who were writing lots of posts about all the different things that people wanted on the website. And just to kind of paint a picture, at the time I joined, if you clicked the follow button, it didn't do anything. There was no feed.
Oh.
It was basically just a button to click, but it didn't do anything. And so there was lots of features and functionality that we're used to today that just weren't there at the time. And for people who kind of had expectations coming from a website like Facebook, where there's a lot of fancy features, you can share videos and you can send messages to your friends, none of that was there. And so all kinds of people were writing these articles, and people didn't know if Steemit was listening. That they weren't seeing progress on the website. They were frustrated, thinking that it was just going to stay that way forever. And so what I did was I literally spent an entire weekend reading every single post I could find from every single user about every single request that they had. And I copy pasted links and notes into a text file. And I wrote a giant post that was basically the community wish list. And I linked to every single user who I had taken an article from and said, here's this recommendation from so-and-so, and here's this recommendation. And I put my own personal twist into it, in that, I got to pick the ones that went on the top. I could characterize the enhancements how I wanted to, and basically kind of painted a picture of a utopian Steemit with, here's what the community would like to see.
I like it. Tim, what you just said is really important. And again, those of you watching this, listen to what Tim just said. He did his homework. He paid the price. He read lots of posts. He took notes on it. He made analysis. I mean, that's the software developer in you coming out, working hard, getting the job done, paying the price, when you could have easily sat back, had a beverage of your choice, watched some movies, and just relax. You were paying the price and working at it. And it does take work, right?
Yes. And so, not to give bad advice here, because I want people to be careful how they interpret this, but after I linked to all those people's blogs, I did go back to each one of their blogs and say, hey, you might be interested in this article. I just talked about you here. And basically that was kind of my way of, I guess, being spammy.
But you were doing it in a very helpful way. I mean, for instance, it's one thing to be spammy and say, hi, I'm wonderful, buy my stuff, versus, hey, I mentioned you and talked about you and something that might help you in this, and it's really customized toward that person. I would say that's not spam. You're helping people.
Yeah, and see, I'll even underline, pause, and flag exactly what you said, because that's the concept that I was trying to convey. Is there's a difference between just kind of going after random people that you've never met before and saying, hey, follow me, upvote my stuff, versus actually making a connection with them. Hey, I read this article of yours. I thought it was useful. I just talked about it here. Do you want to come read my post?
That's exactly right. And again, Tim, I'm pausing you every so often here because those of you listening to this, listen to what he just said. That's the way to do it. You're helping people. Tim, I've had so many people that have come on. I don't know them. Their name is XR35789 or whatever, something crazy. And they go, I will follow you. You follow me. I mean, literally, that's what they're saying. And I go, I don't know you. I don't know anything. And now all of a sudden you want me to follow you and start getting all the things that you're giving. Tim, the way you're doing it is the way that it needs to be done still. So that is good. What kind of results did you get from that?
Pretty good. I think I made about $25 on my post, which for me was one of my highest paying out posts. And I actually, it didn't stop there, because what was interesting is I kind of made a name for myself at that point. People knew me as the person who came up with the wish list. And what I found was, after people knew that there was kind of a place for their wishes to go, I got tons more messages from other people like, hey, you should add this. And hey, what about this? And so I ended up making a lot more connections from people who heard about the wish list and, had their own ideas to contribute. And so Wishlist 1.0 was just the beginning. I actually then spent probably about 2 more weeks um, doing even more work and coming up with some of my own ideas and talking to users and getting more input. And I'd say about 2 or 3 months after that, I created the Wishlist 2.0, and that one got huge results.
Wishlist 2.0. Now, is that still available that someone could go back and research that and review it?
Yep. Search, if you just go onto the Steemit search and type Tim Cliff Wishlist 2.0, it's probably one of the first posts that'll show up in the search results.
Good. Thank you. That might be a good thing to review, because I would imagine that even though Steemit platform keeps changing, many of those comments that you have in there, I'll bet, are still valid today.
Yep, definitely. But I was very happy with the results of that, in that Dan the Man and several other Steemit developers actually read and commented and engaged with the post and gave their feedback on some of the ideas. So to me, that was a huge success. Was basically, I got the attention of the dev team. I took all the ideas from the community, who everyone was frustrated and wasn't sure if they were being heard, presented them in such a way that it got the dev team's attention, and then there we go. Now the dev team is aware of our wish list. And so that was a big accomplishment.
Exactly. That's brilliant what you've said. And those of you that are watching this, you're getting a really good lesson on how to succeed in Steemit. Not only in Steemit, but also in life. But this is specifically Steemit. You care for other people. You do your research and help them. Not just saying, hi, I'm wonderful, you owe it to me to help me. No, you really pay the price and go in depth on that. Now, Tim, something else that you had mentioned to me, I think is very good, is you mentioned some differences between people who are investors, and you talked about using your own money. I know there's something to be said when someone says, here's my money, I'm putting it into this endeavor, whatever the endeavor is. Talk to us about how that relates to Steemit and how people might want to get involved more heavily in Steemit.
Yeah, so this is what I would consider this very interesting advice and counterintuitive for a lot of people that join. Is I would strongly recommend that as a new user, you consider investing some of your own money in the platform. Not necessarily a lot. The right amount is going to be different for different people. $20 might be considered a lot, or $1,000. It's different for every person. But the goal of the investing aspect of it is to have some of your own skin in the game. And I feel like it changes your perception of the website. Because most users are on the website kind of take. I want money, pay me for what I'm doing. But where that money is coming from is the investors of the platform are buying the tokens, expecting to get a return on their money. And if you go through that process, whether it's for $20 or $100 or whatever the amount is, if you actually buy tokens with some of your own money and hold on to them, hoping that they go up in value, and looking at the platform from the perspective of somebody who wants to see Steem go up, it really adds a unique perspective on how you view the content, how you view what goes on, and it gives you a perspective that I think helps you tailor your content in a way that actually will make the value go up.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think that's important. And in a way, I kind of think of it like this. And tell me what you think of this, Tim. It's like you and I both work for ABC Company. We're both getting a paycheck. We get our salary from ABC Company. But you go out and buy lots of ABC Company stock. You're buying it, you get heavily invested, and you've got a significant portion of it, whereas I don't have any of it. Seems like the person, you, who's invested in all that, is going to have a lot more interest in the success of ABC Company long term.
Yes, exactly.
And it seems like that would be a good way to do it. So if someone says, well, I'm thinking about doing that, you're in a position where you talk to a lot of people who are whales, who are witnesses, who are doing very well. What kind of numbers are we looking at? Not that anyone has to do this or they should do, but what kind of numbers have you heard from a range of, say, the lowest up to the highest?
So, I mean, the lowest would probably be just a few dollars. I think there's definitely been people who just wanted to throw a few dollars in and see how the whole thing works. You
By
know,
a few
maybe
dollars, you mean like $5,
$5.
$10? Or?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Personally, when I started out, actually, even before I wrote my first blog post, I invested $250 of my own money in the platform. I actually did start out purely as an investor. I didn't necessarily plan on becoming involved in other ways. It was once I had invested and I started learning more about the platform that I got drawn in to all the other aspects. And $250 for me was actually quite a bit of money. I mean, that after the bills are paid and you know, had money for eating and everything like that, I usually only had about 50 extra dollars a month to set aside. So $250 for me was what I would consider a big investment, but
Yeah,
not
5
anything.
months investment, if my math is correct there.
Yeah. But at the same time, nothing where if it tanked to zero, I was going to be, oh my gosh, I just lost my life savings or anything along those lines. It was enough where, I would be very happy if that $250 went up to 500. I would be sad if it went to zero, but I wouldn't be devastated. And I feel like that's kind of the right spot for people as far as what's right for them. You mentioned I've talked to whales. I've definitely talked to a lot of people that have put hundreds of thousands of dollars into the platform. They're obviously playing a very different game, but at the same time, it's the same concept as even if you're investing $250 of your own money, everyone's putting money in because they want the platform to succeed. They hope it does well, and that amount of money to them is important, and they're going to treat it in a way that they want it to do well.
Yeah, so you're saying there are people that have put in hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's some pretty serious money.
Yes.
Yeah, but they're doing that because they see the potential for a platform that pays people for producing content versus so many of the other social media sites that are out there. They don't pay you. You post and you hope you might get a like. You might get a share, maybe a retweet. That's nice, but I don't know what it's like in Minnesota, but here in Florida, they don't take likes or retweets at the grocery store. It doesn't tend to work. I don't know. Does it work that way up in Minnesota too?
No, and I mean, that's one of the things that got me very interested in the platform early on and why I invested my own money in it is because I thought it was such a revolutionary concept. I actually, before I found Steemit, had done tons of other online type things to make money, blogging websites, affiliate websites, and I just didn't ever quite see the same value proposition that I saw when I read the Steam white paper as far as how everything in the system is kind of a check and balance as far as the different people having different interests and different goals, all kind of being directed in a way where your personal goals can align with the goals of the platform.
Yep.
You doing well is tied to the platform doing well. And if the platform does well, the tokens are worth more and then your investment goes up. So it all works in a way that I feel incentivizes the right participation. Now, it doesn't mean, I don't know if we want to go into a tangent there, but there's tons of people who can still use the platform for their own personal gain at the expense of the community as a whole. But I feel like the system is built in such a way where the people that are doing good, as long as they're the majority, are going to be able to drown out the people that are doing bad and ultimately bring the platform into a better place.
Yeah, I agree. When you think about it with Steemit, yeah, we know that we can make money there. So all of us need to make money. We want to eat. We want to pay bills. We want to accumulate money. That's a good thing. And we do it by creating value, by putting out really good value, just putting out stuff and go, hey, like me, follow me, I'll follow you, upvote me, I'll upvote you. That doesn't work. You've got to really make sure you're providing good value, and you get that by studying what others are looking for. It's not just what you think is really dandy and what you think is nifty and groovy. You got to look at what others are saying. Hey, I need to know this. And you find that out by pure oldie hard research, like Tim did. Get in there, do the research, and work at it. Well, Tim, you have been so gracious helping us with this. Anything else that you would like to share or to say that minnow that's getting started, or even a whale that might be watching this and wants to learn something that they might not know? What would you say to those people that are watching this video?
Well, I'll actually close with a concept that I talked in another show, which is the difference between an investor and a stakeholder.
Sounds
And
good.
what I see the difference between the two is that a typical investor is going to put their money in a project and hope that other people make it worth more. A stakeholder is going to take an active role. And that's one of the very unique things about the Steem blockchain, is that it gives our investors the option to be a stakeholder. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to participate, but they have a lot of different ways that they can participate in ways that can help grow the value of their investment. One of the main ways that the investors or stakeholders get to participate is by voting on the content. And there's lots of discussions about, the stakeholders should be voting more on this type of content, or they should be voting less on their friends, and they should do more flagging or less flagging. And really all of that boils down to what decisions need to be made in order for the platform to succeed. And the people who are making those decisions are the stakeholders. And another part that I find interesting is that as time goes on, the users themselves become stakeholders. The system is designed in a way where when you get your payments at the end of 7 days, your payment is half liquid or Steem dollars, and the other half is Steem power. So if over a year you earn $500 worth of rewards, you're going to get $250 that you can just cash out, go to an exchange, trade it in for, say, Bitcoin, and trade those Bitcoins in for dollars. But the other half of it remains in the site as Steem power. And so even though you may not have invested your own money to begin with, or maybe you did, that Steem power in your account becomes your vested interest in the platform doing well. You now have Steem tokens that go up and down in value, and as a stakeholder, you have more influence in the website. So as you accumulate more and more tokens, the value of your decision of what you perceive as valuable starts to become worth more. And so for new users, I would again encourage you to think about investing your own money for the reasons that we talked about before. But even if you don't, you're still going to be accumulating that Steem power that you earn through blogging and commenting and participating in the website. And look at that stake that you've acquired as your investment, and keep in mind, what can you do to make that investment worth more?
That makes all the sense in the world, to take what you're doing and invest it in something that is going to create even more value later. Don't think of Steemit as something you're going to get in, make a bunch of money, and then get back out. It's something that's long-term. And when you think about it, that's a good thing. For those of us who are content creators, who are writers, publishers, it's a real good measure of finding out how good really are you. Because when people have to put in money by giving an upvote, and they are only they're limited to the amount of upvotes they can give over a period of time, then they're going to be more careful, and that helps you. That's good feedback to know, hey, that's a good thing to write about, or ooh, that wasn't a good post. I didn't get much for it. It didn't really help a lot of people, so I might need to change in the future. This is really good. Tim, Cliff, you have helped many people, including me. I appreciate the work that you have put into this and how you're helping the community, and you continue to do that. Thank you very much, sir. And if someone wants to get in touch with you, and someone's just getting started in Steem, they don't know exactly how to do that, how do they get in touch with you to give you some upvotes, to re-steam some of the material you have, to read your material? How do they go about doing that?
So my personal blog is @TimCliff. So just on steemit.com, you can go to steemit.com @TimCliff. All my content is there. if you want to reach out to me and contact me, feel free to just comment on one of my posts, even if it's slightly off topic. I don't mind, as long as it's not high follow, upvote, those types of comments. But hey, Tim, I saw you on the show. I wanted to reach out because I thought this was interesting. That type of thing, even if it's not in the context of my top blog post, feel free to just comment on that. I'm also on Steemit Chat, which if you're on steemit.com, there's a link to Steemit Chat in the main menu. You have to sign up for an account there if you don't have one already, but my username there is Tim Cliff. And I also pop into Discord at least once a week, which is another chat platform that a lot of people in the community use. Same username, Tim Cliff. So if you use that platform, you can message me there, and I get back to everybody on that platform at least once a week.
I like that. Tim, I like the branding you do and the consistency. Tim Cliff, everywhere you go. It's Tim Cliff. What's over here? Well, it's Tim Cliff. It's easy to remember that, and good to do that. Tim, thank you so much, sir, for all you do. On behalf of all the Steemians, we're applauding you and cheering you on right now. Those of you watching this, you can applaud right now also to Tim. And Tim, I'm sure you'll feel that as you go. Thanks so much for being with us today. I greatly appreciate it, Tim.
Thanks, Gary. I really appreciate you having me on. It was a great talk.
You bet. And for those of you that are watching this, I want you to think about what you've just seen. This is really kind of like a wonderful course on Steemit, how to make it work, what to do from someone who's very successful. And I got to tell you, when Tim is on camera, he's the same as he is off camera. He is a wonderful, genuine, good person. I would encourage you to follow what he's doing, read his posts, and make it serious. Upvote him. Even if you're saying, gee, I don't have a whole lot, that's okay. 1 penny can mean a lot. Upvote that, give him those upvotes at 100% and help him out. I think this will be a good way for him to know, hey, these people like what I'm doing, and it'll give him good feedback, which will then cycle back into the community and make it better for all of us. So keep doing that. Follow the words of Tim Cliff. And hey, I'm looking forward to hearing from you also. I'm Terry Brock. And like Tim, I'm Terry Brock. That's really my name, and that's who I am. TerryBrock. So at Terry Brock. I'll look forward to hearing from you. And thank you so much for joining us and being with us today.